Thank you. I also have a written speech for this part, but I will just use pieces of it, since I think we had two excellent presentations. First from Richard with the oversight of the whole structure, and then now from Mr. Goran on the applicability for the SMEs. Of course, we are not talking about the legislation as such, unless we aim to review the process which the EC moved from the Green Paper to the proposed legislation, and seem to discount, I would say, many or most of the comments that were made in response to the Green Paper. I just would like to mention that, but that is not the objective of the day. But it's worth mentioning because this is, of course, a white paper, but it does not mean that it will go straight through the European Parliament. I think we should envisage that there will be additional changes to quite a number of the elements of at least of the regulation. I also would like to underline the uncertainty regarding the paper's impact on SMEs, especially in respect to the use of ISAs. And of course, it's the view of IFAC that an audit is an audit, and ISAs are in a scalable way applicable to all companies, so there is actually no need to make adaptation at the national level. But there are obviously different views on this, and we will have to see how that develops. And I just want to say that it would be very unhelpful if each jurisdiction has its own interpretation on how to adapt ISAs. And then we will lose the concept of an audit is an audit. A question that may be raised and considered, of course, but still we are fighting hard and convinced for that concept. IFAC's response to the Green Paper and audit policy, it stressed the need for the policy to be informed by objective evidence. And in our press statement late last week, we have outlined several aspects of the proposed legislation that we support, as well as several areas which we do not support. And in a number of areas, we still underline that, let's say, more evidence and better impact analysis should have been brought to the table if this should be in a sound process that can be acceptable in a global perspective. As said by both previous speakers, the proposed regulation and directive appears to have major impact on public interest entities and less on SMEs. But, however, since the proposals, as you've seen, address audit quality, the role of audit, to some extent, I would say, I would like to see it more dealing with the role of audit and how the function could be developed to create further value. But it also deals indirectly with the audit market structure, and that's why it's wrong to think that this would just have minor impacts on the SME market and SMP. And remember also that the vision of the EC, the first question, let's say they want to enhance auditors' skepticism. Auditors are not skeptical enough. I question that. But their approach at the end of the day is really to try to enhance audit quality by changing the market structure. That's what it really boils down to. And I would like to say, with regard to market structure, it's obvious that we need both viable SMPs and a set of firms with global capabilities to provide quality auditors and related services. Of course, an increase in the number of firms that have global capability is desirable, welcome, but we question whether the steps taken are the right one. The directive will without doubt enhance the ability of SMPs to do services to, I would say, medium-sized enterprises. By the introduction of the EU passport for auditors, by allowing external funding of firms, by harmonizing educational requirements, and by not restricting non-audit services for the smaller markets and for the SMPs. So thereby actually creating a sort of a competitive advantage in relation to the larger firms. And we should remember that also the larger firms are serving the medium-sized enterprises. So our key messages at the moment, that's that IFAC support initiative to continue to improve audit quality, enhance the role of audit, and safeguard audit independence. We do believe that innovation and evolution are essential for this service, and thereby support the challenge made by Mr. Fleck that we have to question whether innovation in this profession has been, let's say, strong enough. And I ask you, where do we find the drivers of innovation? Is it the firms? Is it the SMPs? Is it the SMEs themselves? Is it the professional bodies? Is it the standard setters? Or, at the end of the day, is it the regulators who should tell us what to do? And it also raises the question as to the end of self-regulation. You know, at IFAC, we do believe that we should talk about shared regulation in our standard setting, which the model for standard setting that IFAC supports is. It's not the profession setting its own standards. It's gone since 2003. It's a shared model. And I think we should work very hard to keep that, because in my view, a profession who is not heavily involved in standard setting and in regulation is not a profession anymore. It's executors of rules set by others. And the shared model should still be and is in the public interest. And it has to be enhanced in order to keep that position. Just briefly, IFAC supports, of course, the following measures: compliance with international standards on audit, the ISAs, no doubt. We support the strengthening of audit committees. We support the enhanced dialogue between auditors and regulators, even if that below the surface, enhanced dialogue with the regulators. Well, there are many questions on that. Some of them are already under discussion of the IFAC Ethics Standards Board. So where do you have, let's say, when you have violation of rules and so when should the auditors in a small firm be obliged to act to whatever authority? It can change the structure of the profession entirely. Of course, we support greater transparency in auditor selection. We support greater cross-border mobility for auditors and also an enhanced auditor report. While in that perspective, future content and format is definitely not clear, I do not think we would support the model that has been presented as part of the regulation. But the IAASB has recently issued a consultation paper seeking broad stakeholder views on enhancing the quality, relevance, and communicative value of auditor reporting. And we also believe that there should be a coherent and equal way of presenting auditor's report. But then, of course, if you have a certain requirement now under the concept of an audit is an audit for the larger companies, what would be the impact when you should write an audit report for an SME or even for a micro unit? Because you should also note that in the communication from the Commission, they define audit as not only statutory audit, but let's say all audit engagements that are also done on a voluntary basis, and that sets a link to what standards has to be applied. However, there are several proposals that IFAC does not support because we don't think there are sufficient evidence and that further research should be done. Mandatory firm rotation is definitely such a one. Also, the prohibition of non-audit services. We do believe that, of course, independence is critical, and IFAC supports the independence framework described in the Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants. But we do have the view that in performing both audit and non-audit services, audit firms obtain complementary knowledge and competence that ensures that each of these services, such as tax services, can be provided efficiently and to the expected quality. We also believe that the proposed legislation, if it would be passed in its current form, could have negative impact on the audit profession and professional accountancy organizations. Most important, and linked to the concept of shared regulation. In particular, it deals with the public accountants organizations' role in audit oversight arrangement. Currently, in many countries, PAOs have been delegated an important role in regulation, continuing education, discipline, and other areas. And there is an appropriate balance between that independent oversight and the support of the professional accountants organizations. And I think there has been expertise and infrastructure that has been established to support these areas, and changes appear unnecessary and will require rebuilding infrastructure in an area where there is no need to mend the chain because it has not been broken. Also, we have concerns about the exterritorial impact. We are concerned that the proposal will provide significant problems for global public interest entities that require global audit services. We do not believe that requiring firms of a certain size to provide only audit services will enhance global quality and services capability of the profession. So, we will therefore urge the Parliament to consider the implication the legislative change will have also for non-European states and the global market for audits of multinational companies. And of course, you can think what kind of a position we will come into in IFAC and also the independent standard-setting boards of IFAC if this proposition will go through. And we still do believe that we should have global standards because we have a number of areas where we have major deviations. And the standard setters board, well, they have to, of course, look at the topic, but it will take a year or so, at least, with the due processes that we have in order to be sure that we work in the public interest, to see whether, let's say, some of these ideas are the right one to implement on the basis of global standards. So in a way, the EC appears to be, let's say, going ahead without proper alignment with other parts of the world. I think we have talked enough already about the concerns about the opening to modify ISAs at the national level. We talked about the risk of destroying the infrastructure of professional bodies whose role will be less relevant. I think I was clear in mentioning that there are, of course, advantages for the small and medium practitioners to be more truly European and to grow, and we would welcome that, but it will be a major, major challenge to build further global firms. These measures will, let's say, undermine service capability in the short and medium term. Whether it will have a positive impact in the longer term, that really remains to be seen. I think that covers most of the areas that I would like to focus on. And just to repeat, and conclude this could not be seen as made the regulation just an issue for the large sector. It will have significant following impacts also on the medium-sized enterprises, and at the end also on the viability of the S&P sector in our profession. Thank you.